Hi tribe, welcome back to my channel. Today tribe, I want to talk about South African retail savings bonds. I know I hardly talk about South African retail savings bonds, but I was reading an article over the weekend and I saw something that excited me. So I thought, let me come talk to you about another investment option. I think it's a very, very good investment option that you definitely should be considering as part of your portfolio. Remember, when it comes to investing, it is all about diversification. So if you have exchange traded funds, if you have shares, if you have property, remember retail savings bonds also are a very good option as well. So what are South African retail savings bonds? So at the heart of it, or what they really are, is you are basically lending the South African government money. Okay, you are saying, I have some money that I can put aside for a couple of years and I'm going to give it to the government. So they will decide to do infrastructure projects, they will do roads and whatever else they decide with that type of money. But you are basically investing in the government and they will give you your money back plus interest at the end of the day. All right, so you are, and the wonderful thing about South African retail savings bonds, they are seen as a risk-free investment. Okay, because remember, with shares they are high risk. Remember, with exchange traded funds there's risk as well. Even with purchasing a property there's some risk as well, and they all carry different types of risk. When it comes to South African retail savings bonds, or bonds in general, they are seen as a very, very low risk type of investment. So I think they are definitely something to consider. All right. So how do they work? Okay. So as I've said, simple. You say, okay, I have 1,000, I have $500 that I can lend to the government, and they will give me my investment plus interest at the end of the day. So with South African retail savings bonds, you have two. Well, there used to be two. Now there is the third one, the one that has me excited. All right. So now you have three types of offerings that they give you. So you can either invest in a fixed rate retail savings bond. You can invest in an inflation-linked retail savings bond. Now, the one that has me excited is the top-up one. Why does this one have me excited? Because before, you couldn't top up. You would just invest and do either, you just invest, and every time you try to put more money in there, it would be seen as a new investment, which was insane. It just didn't make sense. But now I think they're trying to change it up and make sure that it's easily accessible to a lot more people. All right. So with a fixed rate, you can either invest for 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. Okay, so you can either say, this one starts from 1,000 rand, so you can either say, I will invest 1,000 and I'll invest it for 3 years, and I know I have a guaranteed return of 8.5. Or if you choose for 5 years, you are saying, okay, I'll invest 1,000. You can invest all the way through to 1,000,000 rand if you have 1,000,000. But let's say, for example, you have 200,000 and you say, okay, I want to put that 200,000 away for 5 years at a fixed interest rate of 10%. You know that it is guaranteed and you will not lose your capital, which is brilliant. All right. Then, of course, there's inflation-linked retail savings bonds, where they link it to inflation. So it will be the inflation of that day, inflation that is going at that period, plus a fixed amount. They will say, okay, for 3 years we'll give you 3.5 inflation, for 10 years for in linked will be 4.5%. So meaning, if inflation right now is sitting at 5.5, you'll say 5.5 plus 4.5. And why is that important? Remember, with any return that you get, you always have to put inflation back in there and say, okay, this is the return minus inflation. Then you get the real return. Remember, inflation eats away at your money. So let's say you have a return of 15%. You don't effectively have a return of 15%. You have to say 15 minus 5% if that is the inflation of the day. So inflation is a dangerous thing, man. We were actually talking about it the other time. We're like, How wild is it that a couple of years ago you could buy a loaf of bread for 5 rand? Now it's 15 rand. 15 rand. I remember when I was young, my mom, I asked for 5 rand. I could buy a can of Coke, that 340 mils, and get some cookies. Now 5 rand, you can't even breathe with 5 rand. You can't do anything. So I think it's very important to consider inflation when you are investing, and that's why investing is so important, because by not investing you are actually putting yourself at risk of your of just your purchasing power just disappearing. All right, so investing is so important. Then the one that I'm talking about, the one that has me very excited, is the RSA top-up bond rate, and they give you 8.75%. And remember, previously the two that I've mentioned, the fixed rate one, the inflation linked one, they were always, you had to invest from 1,000 rand. But with the top-up one, they allow as little as 500 bucks, and you can top it up without starting a whole new investment. So I think it's a brilliant investment, and they offer 8.75% as the return. Okay, so I think definitely with South African retail savings bonds, it's another investment that you should consider. And I'll give an example, because for me, when I do my investments, I like to marry it to a goal, and that's the only way I really stick to that type of investment. So for me, and I'll actually do a video about what I invest in for my kids. And I think definitely with the South African retail savings bonds, this top-up one, it will definitely form part of their investment going forward, just also to diversify. One thing that you can use South African retail savings bonds, because remember, they are literally almost risk-free. So if, let's say, for example, you have a child who is in grade 8 or even grade lower, and you know that, okay, in the next 5 years they'll be going to university, and you know that you do not want to lose any money, but you want to make sure that you do earn some interest, I think this is a brilliant investment option. All right, so you know that, okay, you are going to put it, say, for example, in a 5-year fixed rate retail savings bond, and you put, I don't know, 100,000 in there. Then you know that after 5 years rather, you'd get your capital amount, what you invested, completely safe, risk-free, and on top of that you have a return of 10%. I think that is really brilliant and something that you should definitely consider. And let me know also, if you were to take out a retail savings bond for your kids or even for yourself, what would the goal be? What would you be doing it for? All right. So what will you need to open up your South African retail savings bond? Simple. Always the 3 things that you need all the time when it comes to any type of investment. You will need your copy of ID, your kids' copies of ID, proof of residence, and proof of bank account. Oh, another thing, what I do like about the top-up bond rate is that even stock fails. So if you have a stock fail that you've put together, you can also invest in this investment option. And you can go to the website, I will link it below, or you can go to the post office, or you can go to the offices in not Cape Town. Ooh, the way always or the offices in Pretoria. All right, so if you are a stock fail, unfortunately you can't do it online on the website or at the post office. You will have to go to their offices because, you know, they need extra stuff. I think your memorandum of agreement and all sorts of things, but very easy to access South African retail savings bonds, and definitely an investment worth looking into. Right, thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon.